Hey.
Hey, hey guys, so welcome back to our YouTube channel. Today it's Talk It Out Tuesday.
I'm Kayleen,
I'm Lindsay,
and welcome.
and we're your
Can you hear
hosts.
me okay?
What?
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah. Oh my
Okay,
God,
because
they're
you hear
matching.
noise. We have twins.
Literally.
If you hear a noise in the background, they're watching a movie outside. Just so you know.
Okay, thank you.
Anyways, so today's interesting topic. I think one that is something we should obviously talk about. Um, but I think my perspective right now on it is a little different from what hers is going to be because of where we live in the moment, but I think it's definitely something we both faced. So obviously we're going to talk about Asians and the whole anti-Asian hate movement. I don't know if is that the official name? I don't really know.
Yeah, I don't know. It's mainly just like social media influence, basically though. Like as of now. So
Yeah. So yeah, let's just talk about it. I don't know. Has there been circumstances growing up still in California, obviously where we live is predominantly white or Mexican, but we live in a very mixed area,
especially
thankfully.
school, I think. Our
Yeah,
school's pretty good about it. So.
yeah, we're pretty mixed. I mean, there's pretty much every group, but I do think it's predominantly Mexican and white. um but yeah, I don't know. And a little bit above us is Irvine and Tustin, which is very Asian, and below us it's San Juan, San Clemente, which is very Mexican and white. So I feel like where we live is in the middle, but I mean, even then, I still think we've faced a lot of hate and racism, even though from both Asians and non-Asians, in my opinion. Yeah, you want to talk about anything that you've kind of faced or whatever?
I was thinking about it earlier because I mean we didn't even know we were gonna talk about this till now, but I was just thinking about it earlier because it's been on social media and stuff, and I was just thinking have I ever felt like I've been discriminated against? And I can't say I have because our I guess community and well I can't say church, but our community and our schools are more diverse, and they're not as diverse as they could be, but I mean with what we have it's pretty good. And so I can't say I have, but I know that growing up with mostly white and Mexican friends, it kind of has it's kind of been I've always tried to fit in with them, always tried to change myself to be more white or more Mexican even. And
Yeah.
so I think for me growing up, when people ask me, oh, what's your middle name? I never wanted to tell them my middle name
So yeah.
because they might take it weird, they might mispronounce it and stuff like that. And that thinking about it's kind of sad because it is my name is after my grandpa. It's yeah, it's an adapted version, and so it is a part of my history and my own family and stuff. And so then me not wanting to even say his own name because I'm embarrassed of it or ashamed of it is very sad to me.
Yeah, and I think growing up, we were able. Obviously, our school was very Mexican and white, but we did go to a church that was predominantly Asian and actually very similar to us. I think also it's hard because yes, we are full Japanese, but we don't really know any Japanese language wise. We don't follow a lot of the Japanese culture. We're very Americanized, or even I would even go to say culturally Hawaiian, just because that's where a lot of our family, when they came to America, they went to Hawaii. And so even now, I think a lot of our traditions have adapted to a Japanese Hawaiian American approach instead of full Japanese. And so when people ask what we are, I'm like, oh, full Japanese. And so they assume I know Japanese. They assume that I wear a kimono or whatever. They assume all these things, and I honestly can't even count to 3 in Japanese. I know hello, can't tell you what goodbye is, but I don't know. I'm grateful that we grew up in a community, especially a church community, that was very similar to us, you know, like yes, yellow on the outside, but kind of white on the inside, that we all got to grow up together and had like similar backgrounds and stuff. But yeah, kind of same for me. I think growing up in school, I didn't want to often say even my last name, or I just kind of dismissed it. I hated roll because the teachers would always frick it up, and that is not fun, especially having Fukushima. A lot of people take it another way that's really inappropriate, and that hurts a lot. Um, and same thing with my middle name. I would shorten it and just go by Emmy, not Emiko, you know? So I think while it was nice to grow up in an Asian, similar Asian community, church wise, I think you're with school so much more and you face it on the daily and it's a lot harder. But yeah, I think the last name was hard to kind of live with as well. Um, but kind of on moving on from that, I think like right now I live in Hawaii, and Hawaii is a very predominant Asian community. You're either half Asian, quarter. You're a lot of people are a lot. It's like a majority Asian, which is different from on the mainland. And so I think here during this time, it's been a different perspective because I I know what I went through growing up all the way through high school. I know how there's the stereotypes of being smart, and even from Asians, they will judge you because you're not as smart, you're not living up to the Asian smartness or the whatever. You don't play a certain instrument, you don't do this and that, and that's hard because I never fit in with the Asians, but I also obviously don't fit in though with the white Mexicans or other people of color. um, so I think it was always hard finding which group we fit in with. And so living here in Hawaii, I think it's been nice kind of being like, these people are very similar to me, and the way I and who I am, like culturally. Um, but again, hearing about what's been going on has been hard because I don't see it here, but I know what it's like back at home. I've lived that back at home, but yeah, it's like right now I'm in a confusing state because I know what it's like, but right now I don't see it as much. Yeah.
Yeah. And then another thing I also like thought of now was like how like when it comes to like I guess um like attraction for me, like I tend to stay away from like full Asian
Yeah, me too.
men because I don't want my children this is so bad, but I want my children to be like culturally mixed. I want them to have different I guess like histories and stuff so they can learn more about like their culture, their heritage, all that stuff. But then also because I just don't want my kids to be full Asian. Like I want them to be a little mixed with something. And like it's sad, but like that's just like the reality of today cuz there are not many Asian boys who go to my school who I am like attracted to, and they're mostly like all like white and tall and stuff. So it's hard like knowing and like I guess expecting myself to be attracted to different types because I haven't been exposed to them. But yeah.
Yeah, and I think with the coronavirus, I think a couple Instagram influencers put it really well. Like, you can't get mad at an entire ethnicity or race for a virus because not all Asians are Chinese, you know? And so, not even saying that it's the Chinese fault. I mean, that's where it stems from, and a lot of people blame them. But in the end, people can't control a virus. Obviously, people do dictate how to move on from it, how to control it, but the people do not create the virus. And so I think that is terrible to put that on not only Chinese people, but all Asian people. And I know it can be hard to distinct differently. I understand that even we struggle with that. But in the end, it's not an Asian virus. Like, that's so disgusting to say. And I think as I was talking to my roommate about this, like, I feel like the media hasn't portrayed. Now, I'm not saying I want it to be like a whole Black Lives Matter protest. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying I think the news and social media outlets don't portray it as out there, and this might be controversial to say, is because they're not afraid of us. They're not afraid of Asians. Asians are known to keep quiet, not ask for help, kind of let things simmer down, move on, push things aside, um, not be controversial, not be confrontational, um, because we were always taught to kind of stay quiet, move on, let things pass by, and not in any way, shape, or form am I saying that Black people or people of color are ones to automatically riot or like fight back. But I think because in history, there have been many movements, both peacefully and non, but their voices have been slowly been heard, and there has been movements about it. I think the news was quick to be like, we gotta put all the evidence out there about these situations. We have to like put everything out there. Um, and I feel like with this, there hasn't been as much because one of the stereotypes of Asians, but two also because we're in the middle of two major colors, if that makes sense. And I don't know, that could be controversial to say, but I feel like it's true. And I'm not saying that Black people don't struggle with being Black or white or whatever, and especially people who are biracial. But I feel like that's where my heart kind of breaks, is because although I'm not biracial, I'm full Japanese, but I even struggle as a full Japanese person to fit in with the white people or the Blacks or the Mexicans or whatever it looks like, whatever culture, whatever city. Like, it's hard. And it's not just an Asian thing. I think it's everyone who goes through things. And whether you're mixed or not, I think everyone does struggle because the way you grow up defines a lot, but your culture and ethnicity also defines just as much. And so I don't know. I think this time has really just got me thinking, like, what does it mean to like stand up for who I am, but also find where I stand in the matter, and how to best move forward and not just stay silent, because silence has done what? Nothing ever. And Asians are so passive, and while it can be sometimes respectful, I think it's also, I'm not saying that in any way, shape, or form we need to like attack or anything, but I think we do need to use our voices, and I think Jeremy Lin has done a great job of that, and a couple other Asian people have. Rebecca Robertson has done a really good job, but I think it's just hard because in our nature we want to stay quiet and we want to just move on, but it is an issue, especially with Corona, especially with these current happenings that are happening today in other ways. And I'm not saying that it's only Asians and Blacks who need movements. I'm saying that at the end of the day, we're all people, and no matter what the color of your skin is or what your cultural background is or what your race or ethnicity is, like, you gotta respect humans for humans and people for people, and realize that there is a hierarchy. I can fully admit that I do have more, what is it, like, privileges than Black people. I know that, and so, but I am aware of it. But I also do know that I do not have as much privilege as white people, and so there is a hierarchy that's kind of in place. And so it's kind of like, what can we do to remove those social standards and really unite as people of color, and as humans, to just limit that, so the future generations of biracial mixed kids or even full don't have to go through the same pains of being afraid to say their last name, their middle name, being afraid to not be smart enough, to not be athletic enough, to be too short, too tall, whatever that looks like, because it's not fair because of your color or your height or your smartness.
And like also another thing is like I appreciate like the people who are going on social media and are trying to become allies and trying to do what they can, but at the same time there's only so much that you can do on social media. You can post every single thing, you can repost all these articles and stuff, and yes, it is very educational and stuff, not only for you but for other people. But I think that it really matters like what's in your heart and what's your intention for posting it as well. and yeah, just like playing that out in like real life too, not just on social media is
Yeah,
important.
and because how you treat someone, your actions tells a lot about how your heart perceives a person. I know I've been talking a lot, sorry, but I think it on social media it's very educational and you're raising awareness without a doubt. But I think how you approach people in life tells a lot as well about your heart and where you stand. Um, and if you want to get educated, talk to people. Don't just look on social media because social media can be biased so much of the time. But like talk to the people. Ask good questions. Ask if you're curious. And if you're one of those people who's being approached with those questions, be open. Do not get offended because they want to know they're curious. Being offended is a choice. And so, yeah, I don't know. I think there's just a lot going on in my life right now, and with all this as well, I'm trying to navigate how to best, I don't know, approach the situation because I've been out really talking to a lot of my friends who are of color and who are white and just asking them like we've been really open about it, just trying to talk about it because we want to know each other's opinions and kind of where we stand and how to help one another not only be educated and know what we've had to face, but also how can we be there to support one another and how can we shift our perspective and shift our hearts to better equally treat one another with love, not just each other but like strangers. um, yeah.
Yeah, and then another part of like this whole, I guess, movement is also like um women's like empowerment too as well. And basically like what I've also been thinking about besides the whole like Asian thing is just being also an Asian female and how like I guess a lot of things in our lives are dictated by men, by white men as well. And so yeah, just like from going from like sexual assault to like feeling uncomfortable out at night by yourself in a parking lot, like things like that. I feel like just natural like just safety is very hard to come by, especially nowadays, because you hear so much about sex trafficking, you hear so much about just these poor women who have gone through that, and you never hear about men having to go to the store to go get mace or to go get, like
And
it,
that's not to say that men aren't being sex trafficked. It's just more prominent in women, and women just happen to be more susceptible. Uh, um, yeah, just yeah. I think yeah. No, I
um,
don't want to be like never have to do this because it does, but I think it's just more obvious in women.
yeah. And then another thing I like today, I sent Kayleen a post from, I forgot what it was, but it was like basically comparing Sue Bird and LeBron James and how they have the same amount of titles, the same amount of
Everything,
MVP.
years in the
Yeah,
game, everything, same
they're
amount of
all the
accomplishment.
same. It's amazing, and yet one is at least 200,000. Like their paycheck is at least, or their
A
what
lot
was
more
it?
million.
Oh, the bonus was 100,000 or
Yeah,
200,000 more for the championship, but for
one
like
was being
their
paid in
paycheck,
millions, and one was just 200,000. Like that's
it's crazy and it's not fair, and it's not, and she is like a white woman and he is a black man, and yet yes, there is a racial
well known in their
difference.
sports.
Yeah, and it's the same sport, but there still is a difference, and there still needs to be more changes to be made.
Yeah,
But yeah.
yeah. So I don't know. I think going forward, I don't really know I don't know. I don't know what our end goal of talking about this was today, to be honest. I just wanted to talk about it. I don't know really where to go from this, but I think at the end of the day, um, racism is there, and whether it's structured in our society, whether it's the way you were raised, whatever, I think everyone needs to realize that there is a hierarchy and it's not okay. Even if you are getting hated on, you have to realize where you are and how to change that because you cannot I cannot be like, oh my God, I'm getting hated on by white people, but then go hate on Mexican or black people. That's not okay. I'm just adding to the fire, adding fuel to the fire, and that's not helping anyone. And I think, yes, equality is so important, but it's also how do we reach equality? Because we can say equality for all, but still treat black people the worst, and then Asians and then white people great. Like, that's not even okay either. And so, yeah, I think it's how do we shift our perspective to raise our brothers and sisters up, um, and how do we all move forward in a positive direction and towards equality. It's going to take time and a lot of effort, but how do we stop hating on races for their color, for a belief, for something they can't even control? That's, I think, where it hurts the most. um, yeah, hate is just as much as a virus. I liked what Rebecca Roberts said. Hate is just as much a virus as coronavirus is, and possibly even more toxic and worse. Um, because it is true. And yeah, I don't know. I think on behalf of a lot of Asian women, like I don't know. I feel the pain and the heartache, but I also encourage to speak up, even though it's hard. I struggle with speaking up. Um, and I'm not saying you have to go and post a ton on social media or like change the world, but when you face it, speak up. You don't have to fight back. Just say that wasn't cool and move on. Like, just like a small little thing, just to respect yourself and respect the others, because obviously we want to love and love first, and sometimes it's hard. The hard things take love. Um, kind of like when a baby's crying and you need to just leave them in the room and let them cry. It's hard, but it's out of love. And I think that's kind of what we have to do at times, is say, hey, that's not cool, and it's hard to say it, but it's out of love, because we don't want our future generations, our siblings, our family members, friends to have to go through the same thing. So out of love, stand up for yourself and stand up for the people you care about. And in the same way, love those people and work hard to have conversations and just talk and see where their hearts are at.
Yeah, and at the same time, we're not like asking for any pity. We're not asking
No.
for you to punch. Whoa, punch.
Punch.
For you to post a bunch. That's what I meant, not punch.
No punching either, no violence. But I think we just wanted to kind of talk about it, just to let people know where our hearts and where our heads are at during this time.
Because
We don't have all
we don't talk about it much either.
no.
So.
And we don't have all the information. We don't know all what to do or what's completely right, but I think it is important for us just to kind of talk and see how we feel and where our heads are at. Maybe we'll have to do a part 2 and kind of see where we feel in a couple of weeks. But for now, this is where we're at. This is how we're feeling. Please share how you feel and your thoughts as well, because we want to know. And yeah. Anything else? Well, with that being said, thanks for joining us for another Talk It Out Tuesday. And we'll see you guys next time.